I will call the Jamaica Selectboard meeting to, call the meeting for November 22nd. First item is to any late agenda items? Anything to add? What's not missed? Nothing. Hearing nothing? Okay, on to number two. Item number 2, approve the minutes from our last meeting from November 8th.
Make a motion.
Second.
I do have one item to change on there. It was pointed out, I actually had said that the planning commission is working on a re-adoption of the town plan, quite different. They're not re-adopting the full plan, but adding amendments. So it's quite a different process. So I was pointed that out, so it should be revised to say, planning commission is working through the amending the town plan.
Okay.
Anything else? All in favor of approving the minutes as amended?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. So passes for sure. Alrighty, number 3. Conversation with Sheriff Henderson. Thank you for coming.
My pleasure.
And it's always great to hear from you firsthand and hear what's going on and what we have to look forward to and all those good things.
So, thank you, good evening, and it's actually nice to be in person.
Yeah.
Am I supposed to sit somewhere with microphones? Is this fine?
No, I think it'll pick up from there for sure. Yeah.
Great. So, I don't really get to see the Jamaica Selectboard in a while, so I wanted to come in person. I also know we're in budget season, so this is the time that I usually make my rounds to say, let me answer any questions that you have. You should have received my rate letter, I think about 2 weeks ago, which does have an increase. We acknowledge that we're still trying to work on some ideas, but that's our worst case scenario. Some of it might require legislative intervention, which if we get it, then the rates will come down. If we don't get it, again, that's the worst case scenario. Beyond that, I'm happy to answer any questions, talk about why the rates increase, and happy to talk about what we're doing in town. I'm an open book.
I think both those things for sure.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing that comes to my mind is maybe just talk about how the relationship in working with Londonderry and how that's progressing, how that impacts the rates, however you want to transition all those things.
Yep, so everything with Londonderry is actually going really well. In terms of managing the relationship, I think it's been pretty well functional. I could also see Londonderry increasing their amount of hours if they wanted to. I'm not saying that they need to, but seeing them increase their number of hours just because of the sheer volume of work that we're doing there. Jamaica, we've basically, I would say it's relatively similar in terms of activity of what we've been seeing in years past. Nothing's really changed.
Yeah, I guess that's where I wouldn't really not to be cold toward Londonderry. I don't really care about that at all. But just on how it impacts us, and the talk was of some savings on our budget, and so more direct interaction with having one sheriff in the area and that kind of thing.
Yeah, so the way that we structured it was basically when we, as my letter indicates, when we have a full-time position, we're able to realize some savings in terms of how we use our personnel. So with that, it comes at that lower rate. And so technically what we did was we split the towns of Jamaica and Londonderry and said this is going to be one full-time position covering both towns. For Londonderry to increase the amount of hours, we would still honor that relationship as long as they are staying in the game. We would continue to honor it because quite frankly, I have a soapbox that I will not get on tonight other than to say rural policing in Vermont has been incredibly underfunded forever. We can go to 50 years worth of legislative studies and studies by the Department of Public Safety and talk about some of the initiatives that we're trying to undertake. So at the end of the day, I'm trying to encourage access to emergency services, build up the resource, especially in the more rural areas. And I think it makes sense for us to continue with our pricing structure to make sure that we're supportive to the towns as they do increase. The deputy I did have assigned here, Adam, he had been doing a fantastic job. Unfortunately, as is the nature of my business, all law enforcement is currently trying to recruit from other law enforcement agencies. and another law enforcement agency came in with an offer I just couldn't beat. So he has departed to another agency, but he did a really good job while I was here. And we have a replacement who's in our hiring process. He's fully qualified from New Hampshire. However, we're waiting for the process to bring his certifications to Vermont to take place. So once that happens, it'll help us in terms of shifting resources. That hasn't really affected our delivery of services to Jamaica and Londonderry. I have a grant-funded position, which we pulled him from the grant funds to work on the town, so that's how we've been working to make it up. We also will have probably a few different phases, just short-term, as we're working through the personnel transition. So yeah, it's going good.
Okay. Yeah.
Do we have some hours that you guys were billing back to us?
We do. So yes, last fiscal year, well, there's two parts to that conversation. Last fiscal year, because of personnel shortages, we owed you a number of hours. I don't remember the exact quantity off the top of my head, but there was a number.
40s. 100.
So that was, rather than calculating it towards the current year rates, we say you already bought the hours, so you got it at a discount, congratulations, or however that works. So that's applied into the total number of hours that Jamaica bought this year. So you bought 1,000 hours. If it was 100 hours that we owed you, then you have 1,100 hours.
Okay.
And so we just brought that down as part of our regular schedule. So that was one piece of the conversation. The second piece, which I don't think we ever explored, and I'm not saying we need to, but certainly if it's on your radar, there's a discussion, I believe, because Jamaica set its budget based off of the higher number, not knowing what Londonderry was going to do. And so now that you're realizing the lower hourly rate off of that full-time position, you probably have a surplus of money. If you wanted to use it towards more policing, we can talk about that. If you want to apply that elsewhere, that's fine by me, because right now, as I've said, I'm working on backfilling the staffing, which also comes with trying to do that. So I don't want to overextend what we're doing, even though I think that having more law enforcement resources in this area would be a benefit to the community.
When was the last rate increase before this?
The last rate increase was we level funded 2020. I think 2019 we had a minor one. I think it was like 50 cents. So generally speaking, let me talk about how we build the rate. We have the cost of the deputy, so the hourly rate of the deputy, which I start them at, just to stay competitive with other agencies and retain my staff, I start them fully qualified at $23 an hour. On top of that, we have the federal tax rate that we have to pay in addition to what the employee has to pay. We have workers' compensation insurance, law enforcement liability insurance, vehicle insurance, all those different things. So on average, that all builds into the total hourly rate. We have to pay for licenses for them to have access to like the law enforcement record system that we use. So at the end of the day, the cost of the deputy themselves, with all the fees built in, used to come out to about $39 to $40 an hour, depending on who the person was. Where we got caught off guard this year was that so we are a member of the Vermont State Employees Retirement System. That's offered to all state government, which the sheriffs are quasi-offered, not quasi, we are offered access to it. And the deal with it was if you join the retirement system, which that happened in about 2001 or 2002, once you join, you can't leave. Yeah, that seemed reasonable, I guess, at the time when one of the previous sheriffs committed the agency to it. When I joined the agency in 2007, the contribution rate was 12%. We just rounded out 25%.
Wow.
So what I did not anticipate was that the retirement contribution, the employer's portion of the contribution, not the employee, the employer's contribution increased from 19% from 13% to 19%, which comes down to roughly $4 to $5 an hour, depending on my person per hour. And that's the majority of the cost increase in this year's rate. So, didn't see that one coming. I have talked to just about every single legislator that's willing to listen to me to say, this isn't sustainable for me. The retirement system that we're in is a 30-year retirement, which every other law enforcement agency has a 20-year retirement. And so in terms of equitability and recruiting and incentives, we fight an uphill battle in that regard. And so now I'm actually paying more for the 30-year retirement than people with the 20-year retirement pay. And I'm not allowed to leave. I've asked the treasurer's office, I've asked the legislature to pass a law that gives us an exit ramp basically to walk out, but I imagine you're familiar, the state retirement system currently is in dire straits, and they don't want to have us leave because we're supporting it continuing to poorly function as opposed to crumbling. So that's a tough problem that we're trying to work through.
Can you get into one of the other groups?
So, no.
I just thought I'd throw it out there.
Yeah, so we're in Group F. Group C, the problem with Group C, if we were even allowed to change plans, which we've been told we cannot, is that as a mandatory age limit for retirement. So that's why we can't get into that. If we were to exit the state retirement system, we would want to go into the municipal retirement system, which is fully funded and functional. And then there's two 20-year retirements there, which again, they cost less. So we've asked, there's about 7 sheriffs in the state who are in the municipal system. There's, I think, 6 or 7 who are in the state system, and we are saying it's a equity issue. We're saying it's incentive if we're able to offer competitive benefits that other agencies offer. And these are the problems that we have when the state says that they need our services, which we do a lot of work with the state as well, and we don't have the people. And they've been frustrated by the lack of those resources as well. So I'm optimistic that we will see change. I just don't know if it's going to be change that affects the cost of my service. So I am working on it.
So just, the sheriff had offered, back to the hours that were owed, he had offered, or the sheriff's department had offered to give us a check if you weren't on the board then, or didn't hear about that. We would have been reimbursed, but we didn't choose to do that. And just a couple public concerns. We're wondering if you're in East Jamaica, and I read the billing, and I said yes. As a matter of fact, one followed me and turned in East Jamaica tonight at the last meeting, but I assured them that the Sheriff's Department patrols East Jamaica and Jamaica. And then there was one more question about, do we have weekend coverage, or will we get that?
Yeah, yes-ish. So we started off the first couple months with Londonderry just because we had no idea what to gauge with them. We started off just saying, we're going to do a set schedule, figure out what they need and don't need. We understood Jamaica's needs, especially with ski season and foliage season, start to see the weekend traffic. So we're working on shifting to the weekend coverage schedule now that we have an idea of what Monday through Friday looks like in Londonderry. Now we want to figure out what the weekends look like for them so we can give them that information. We are also working because pretty much everyone in the West River Valley, all the towns in the West River Valley have the same request Friday nights and Sunday afternoons. So we've heard and we are committing to those changes. If we've already done it, that's possible. I just don't know the answer. I know we talked about it at a staff meeting about a month ago. So they will be coming if they haven't already.
So that's some of the questions I had.
Yeah, I don't have any either. I mean, I guess it kind of sounds like an odd coming from the other end. I mean, do you think your price increase is enough to be able to retain staff and recruit staff and things like that? I think we obviously value the relationship and want to make sure that, I mean, not to say, hey, here's more money, but just to say, just to make sure that we don't get surprised, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know the answer. I know that the current rate covers our costs based off of everything we've been told to anticipate.
Yeah, okay.
What was tough on retirement is that we were never given any heads up. So we pay quarterly, and my bill went up about 15 grand in one quarter. And we found out July that it had changed. So the first quarterly payment was like, where are we going to come up with that cash? Like, we projected our rates in November of the year before.
Right.
So
Was
that,
that from health insurance costs going up?
no, that was retirement. Our health insurance actually stayed the same. It might have even gone down a little bit. Never seen that happen, so.
Yeah, and there's just so much other uncertainty. I mean, the cost of equipment, you know, all these things, you know, hard to predict, but just what you're seeing out there, I don't know.
Yeah, so I'm hopeful that the increase brings us back to our prior strategy, which is that we just, as we do increases from year to year, that they're a more moderate, manageable amount as opposed to, hey, it's going up $8 or $10. I don't think it's a surprise to anybody here. I mean, everything's gone up in price, it seems. I mean, whether it's trying to get a gallon of milk or eggs or gas or whatever, it's just everything's gone up, and trying to get vendors to help support us is the same problem. So, I mean, it's, I guess, a sign of the times, but at the same time, I think that we did as diligent a job as we could to say we need to cover our costs, but also to respect that towns also bear a brunt of the responsibility without services coming back to them from other places. So I've been talking with VLCT, not to say that they've taken a position on this, just initial conversations about what are ways that we can bring more regionalized services to, specifically for here, Windham County, the broad state picture. How can we regionalize services, reduce costs, provide more services? So I'm doubling down on regionalization in a lot of ways. I'd like to see my department change its funding model from the current fee-for-service contract, as I call it, to a more regionally supported model. Because, quite frankly, rural policing in Vermont is pretty abysmal, and generally people don't need the police till they do, and when they need them, well, they don't want to call the select board and say, why didn't we put more money in the budget, or why don't we have a contract, or why don't we have this? The logic of the system makes no sense. So I'd like to see that change, and I'm working towards a system and a model that would do that, but it's not quite ready for prime time.
Well, super. I don't know, anybody else?
Thank you for coming down.
Yeah, thank you very much.
My pleasure. And
Did you have a question, Paul, or no?
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Is there anything that the town of Jamaica can do to make it easier for your guys? Anything we can do to help?
you know, we've had such a long-lasting relationship with the town.
Yeah.
I feel like the town already does it. I mean, I have a great relationship with Andy. If there's an issue, we're on the phone, I think, within 24 hours. I mean, I appreciate the solid communication that we've always had with Jamaica, even back when we were on the board.
And Paul's still heavily involved with our emergency management, you know, whatever. There's a lot of committees out there, but all of those. Yeah, yeah.
Are you in tune with the change in the regional emergency management committee system?
I am not.
Because they're asking, who's our police, we'll talk about that later. They're asking us, the state is asking for Windham Regional to ask all the EMDs to delineate who is their fire, police, EMS response agency. And we put down you and back up to the Vermont State Police, but I don't know if you are involved with this committee formally.
Not formally, no. So I'll call Mr. Camp.
Yeah, or Alyssa, either one. But the tricky piece about this is there's supposed to be a representative from the police agency serving the town. That's you. So you serve a bunch of towns. So you were bringing a lot of hats. You come to the meeting and you keep changing hats. The same thing applies to Rescue Inc. in a very real sense, in that they are an EMS agency for lots of towns. The way this, and we'll talk about it more later, the way this was put together in the state, it appears to us to have been put together by somebody who's never done any of this before. And it's not sure how it's going to work right now. But obviously we want to keep in communication with all the players, because when something turns bad, it turns bad for all of us.
Right.
So I didn't know if you'd gotten anything coming out from the state or no. So, okay, well, as we find things that are interesting, we'll share with you.
Yeah, please do. And that sounds like something we should be made aware of. And
Thing, yeah. It's in the kind of embryo stage, and it's not entirely sure what's going on. The only thing we're sure of is what we do know is going on is a little confusing. And so we're trying to work those things out now. But eventually, the idea is to be able to have enough of a dialogue and an educational component, and a networking component within the structure of what used to be the Local Emergency Management Plan Committee 6 years ago.
yes.
That's gone now. So they're trying to restructure that to include all the towns, their representatives, and the police and all the other players.
And that's kind of how I read it too. I mean, I'm a neophyte or whatever, but you had spoke to the regionalization of it, and that's my quick read of it. Was all the towns had their town-wide emergency management response, and this was trying to bring all the towns to make sure that they're all on the same level and maybe be able to help each other in some way because of that. So.
They're putting together, or they're attempting to put together, a resource by which each town will be able to know what adjacent towns have to offer. So we all know what everybody's got, because none of us have everything. And when something goes bad, it's regionally, generally speaking, usually it's weatherish kind of stuff. And so the idea is to put all this stuff together and have this regional emergency management committee to be able to sort of, I don't know, let's say honcho it for the sake of a better word. But it's brand new and it's in its infancy, we're trying to make sure it works. And one of the things is that involve the police department, because you guys ought to be at least at the table.
One of the things that I floated the idea when I first took office was actually starting to come up with a regionalized emergency management coordinator, for lack of better words, but to offer to towns that they didn't have any EMD. There were some towns that didn't have any EMD, and so basically contract out the service. I found that most towns had EMDs, and so it wasn't really market. But to the point, it comes back to this broader conversation. And actually, in Grand Isle, the county of Grand Isle, the sheriff's office provides this exact service because most of those communities don't have EMDs. And so he brings everything together, including what you're talking about. It's like, this is just how it should be. Like, this is a model. Why aren't we doing this? And so we get committees from the top down driving the local issues, and where it becomes comical. I mean, I'm thinking back to Irene, and it's just like the state's telling us we can't do this. And it wasn't the state who was in 3 Mountain Inn trying to figure out how do we get fire trucks back across the river. It's everybody in the community saying, this is the plan, and we're going this way, and who contributes to that? So I'm thinking about this as we talk about somebody who didn't quite know what they're thinking about. I mean, however that came to be, it's just like, we need to get local people at the table to talk about these issues and how do we work together, because we do work together really well.
This is very much like trying to design a plane while you're flying it. With the exception, of course, is people get really excited after you crash.
Yeah.
So in the design process, it's yawn, yeah, But once you crash, then everybody's excited, but then we may have hurt someone, so we're trying to avoid that.
Sure.
Good, very good. Yeah. Alyssa is the coordinator for,
Yes.
everybody's in touch with everything, obviously. But Alyssa looks for who's kind of hunching us. And we're trying to do the best we can.
Great. I will reach out.
Super.
All right, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Thanks.
I will do that.
Take it easy.
Which perfectly leads in to the next item on the agenda here, to confirm the Regional Emergency Management Committee nomination. So Paul's been our local emergency management coordinator. This came through Windham Regional, the Windham Regional Commission, I guess. I mean, they're now looking at trying to regionalize these things. And I don't know exactly how they chose the criteria of who needs to have this certification or whatever to be on this committee structure, but from us, it kind of made logical sense that Paul would be a representative because he's our local management, local emergency coordinator. And then Dominic Mangiero, who's on the volunteer fire department, had volunteered, I guess, maybe coerced him with a strong arm, or I don't know. But anyway, so and I'll let you, I mean, we probably touched on it already, but you can explain a little bit more what it is, and those are the two nominees that are on the table.
Well, in a nutshell, the way the state has done this is they have mandated all the EMTs are on this committee as a mandate, state requirement. The state is also requiring town select board appoint a second individual. The reason for the second individual, the fuzzy reasoning for the second individual is for voting purposes. And so what they needed to have was sufficient numbers, right now I think the number of towns is 28, so you have 54, I think, voting members. What they're asking is for the 54 voting members, we need a quorum. Well, in order to do that, we gotta get a lot of people together, which has not happened ever when we were doing the LEPC the whole time. So the idea is to have a quorum consist of at least one member from each town and the auxiliary or the vice or the secondary, whatever we're gonna call this guy, may yield his vote or delegate his vote to the person who is showing up. So that, in theory, Dom could say, Paul, you got my vote, or I could say, you got the vote. Whoever one of us shows up has got 2 votes, thereby allowing us to form a committee, because when the state did what they did, put us in the bind of having to comply with the state and the meeting law, which means minutes and warnings and committees and all these kinds of things that we didn't have to deal with before. We don't know how this is going to work. It's not clear. We've never had that many people. I was on the LEMPC, the Region 6, for a number of years. I never had that kind of.
What is that? LEMPC.
Oh, Local Emergency LEPC, Local Emergency Planning Committee, Region 6. There's a bunch of regions around the state. I think there's 8, but we were Region 6 down here. And that was basically emergency management planners get together once a quarter for, like I said, education, networking, these kinds of things, and try to resolve issues that need to be worked on. When that was done away with, and that was done away with for a variety of reasons we can talk about later, but that was done away with, we in our region continued to meet casually because the networking was valuable, the education was valuable. It just was too valuable what we were doing. What the state wanted us to do could not be done. And we said, no, can't do that, goodbye. But we continue. So what's going on now is the Regional Emergency Management Committee we are going to continue to run it much as we have been running the casual ad hoc meeting for education. Example, last Tuesday we had someone from FEMA who was, I think, the senior representative for grant writing for the fire departments. And he came in and gave us a really good presentation on how fire departments need to put together their grant writing so they can get uniforms and hoses and firefighting stuff. Another time we met with Green Mountain Power because there was a problem with the fire departments going to a downed tree, for example, over the road. It's still lit. Well, we can stand there and keep people away from the tree because you can't put water on electrical fire until they can turn it off. Well, their system to get anybody out to us didn't work for us at the ground level. So we had this dialogue going, we restructured the system, so now they're much faster to kill power so we can get something done. So that kind of a dialogue. We had people come from the Red Cross as the next one because we're going to be talking about shelters. But we've had people from lots of different agencies talking to all of us about how to manage different kinds of emergencies. And we generate our own agenda. We say, okay, here's what we're gonna do next. That's how we got the one from the grant writing, and we're gonna get the, because the committee itself said, we've identified this as a problem, let's bring in the players. So this has been a real valuable asset. It's just not been formalized until now it's formalized, and now we're scrambling to make the formalities work. And that's kind of what we're doing tonight is, you all are going to appoint 2 people. By law, I'm one of them. The law is written, which I don't remember the number of the law, but it doesn't matter. But then you will nominate someone else. And thankfully, Don has agreed to be number 2.
So I'll make a motion to confirm Paul Frazier and Dominic Mendengo to the Regional Emergency Management Committee.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Paul.
And any other questions come up, or you guys come up with anything, give me a call. We can make it.
And you had your first little get-together, it sounded like, maybe.
Technically, it wasn't a meeting,
Oh, okay.
and
Because
they
you
didn't
were-
actually vote me to be the chair again because we didn't have a quorum. And we didn't publish the meeting in
So
advance.
it's slowly getting off the ground.
Yeah.
But it's, I think, I mean, the point you said too, it's just conversation, which is certainly helpful. It's to know who to call. I mean,
We're good at it.
you're already in a good spot. We
We
are.
are getting good things done. We learned a lot from Irene and some of the stuff, issues. We're getting stuff done, education-wise, networking-wise.
And
We
that's
just
after
didn't have a
that.
formal structure. Now we got a formal structure that's impeding the progress we were making, but we will get it working. Yeah.
Yep. Well, thank you.
How long, just one
Oh,
quick,
yeah.
how long have you been emergency management director for
Oh, my
Jamaica?
goodness. I took over
Is it-
from,
And how, I should know this, but
I probably
do you
should.
get appointed every year
Yeah,
at the town meeting?
yeah,
Well, it's at our organization meeting.
yeah.
Okay, right, okay, I forgot, I
Yeah.
just forgot.
Yeah, I took over from Dana
Right,
Dale West,
I just forgot.
and I've just had it since then. It was probably the year before Irene, because I can remember the dripping from the wet behind the ears as this was going
It
on.
wasn't rain.
Yeah, what is it? This is from it. Yeah, so yeah, it was in that neighborhood, and so that I've been doing it ever since.
Okay, no, I'm just curious. Thank you for doing that.
Perfectly well.
Both you guys.
Hmm?
And,
Listen, I have to tell you, this, Alyssa, and Captain, Chris Campion at the Windham Regional, those guys are incredibly valuable to this community.
I
The
know.
stuff that they have done,
Amazing. Yeah.
absolutely, it's just incredible. Alyssa is just there all the time, she's right on, really, really incredible. So makes my job practically, I just do some paperwork periodically, but they're the ones who really are the lead for this whole region, not just us, but the whole region. Yeah. Oh, it's Mangano.
I've written his name all the time.
Oh, yeah, I wasn't sure.
That man does.
I got it
I'm
wrong
sorry
for
if I
so many, I
mispronounced
finally
it
got
too.
it right last time.
we know that.
All
Didn't
right.
say his
Yeah.
name,
Paul.
so it's good.
Yep.
Thanks.
Okay, on to item number 5, discussion and decision on the town garbage bags. Terry brought up, I mean, it's been an ongoing thing, I mean, trying to find replacement bags for our town pay-as-you-throw. Guess she's put an order in August, and it delay for all kinds of reasons. But it's kind of come to a head right now because we are, all of our bags are out in the market, so to speak. So we have a decision on how we move forward, I guess, I mean, because it sounds like it may not, there's no indication of timing as far as when our current bags would be available due to product shortage, gearing up their machines, I guess. We've got what they call a wave bag, which is only a small time run, and to get it to be printed specifically with Jamaica on it, they keep bumping us out of the production line, I guess.
So these official large bags, the official bag large,
Yeah,
are available now.
they're available now, I
Yes,
believe, right?
she can
So we can just order them
They're
tomorrow.
done and they ship and,
Yep.
And what kind of quantity are we looking
We can order them by the case, which is wonderful, because the other ones are pallet drops, so.
Okay.
You can order 5 cases, you can order 20.
Because they're already in stock. and
Right,
just
because
ship
they run them and they're just a generic bag that any town can use, so.
Yeah.
Do you mean yellow versus green?
They won't
The
be
yellow
yellow.
bags are the ones.
I just got that email today. Did everybody just get that
Today,
today?
yeah.
I didn't send it, I don't know. I don't think it-
Carrie sent it today, yeah, I think she just sent
Did
it.
you get it?
No? Let's check this afternoon.
No, she said it is what it looks like, that's what the bags will look like. That's generic.
Oh,
And
I mean, we said,
I didn't-
what color are they gonna be,
I didn't-
blue?
I didn't know either until last
Blue,
week when I
orange,
said, what's
or
going on the
purple.
agenda? And she said,
I said purple was bad because that's what Townsend has.
Said
And,
that.
I mean, because I go to the store, so I see what color the bags are. I
Yeah.
have no idea what color one of the areas are, so please don't ask.
Yeah,
I don't go-
and then the green doesn't make any sense because we already have plenty of.
Right.
Yeah, let's just do it, I mean, let's, do we have to
Order
do
enough to get us
anything?
through,
Yeah, do
we
we
must
have
have
to say
some
anything?
projection
I
of how
mean,
much we go through every week and say,
The store takes about a case a week.
do we have to make a motion to approve this, or, I mean, it's just it's something out of the budget, it's a budget item.
Right.
So we're making a decision to say we want to use the official
We're making a
bag and we
decision
want to
that
make it
we're
an orange bag
Yeah.
and say, I'm throwing that out.
yeah, I don't know if it has to be. I put it on the agenda when Terry first talked to me about it, it sounded like it was a bigger thing that we needed to pre-order and that was gonna be an expense and we wouldn't have them in time. We needed to decide if we were gonna use 2 small bags for the price of 1 big and all those other options. I think if it's simple enough, just an operational decision to
Yeah.
say, order 10 cases to get us through a month and order another 10 next month if we need them, and,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's pretty
I have a question
straightforward.
about the bags, just as kind of a citizen, I guess, but either way. Do I understand correctly that initially the state was trying to make a biodegradable bag and wasn't able to make one strong enough? Because it irks me to put plastic in there when I used to use paper bags. You know, the more plastic, the worse it is
Right.
in the world. So, does anybody know the answer?
I think probably at a time there was, the biodegradable bags probably were non-existent. I think the technology, so to speak, might be better off now.
Oh, I think we looked into it,
We did look into
and
it,
weren't they through the roof, or?
it's very expensive.
The biodegradables aren't saving themselves.
Or what?
The biodegradable bags don't last
Okay, that's,
because they're degrading.
right.
They don't store, that was one thing, and, the reason we went to these bags was to offset our assessment, which was so much bigger than it is now. We don't have the assessment we did.
Yeah, I know,
It's
I'm
Well,
mandated that we pay as we throw it, and you can
Yeah.
either do a token system, or you can do a number of other, you could
But we
weigh
did.
everything,
We did
which we
look
don't
into
scale.
it,
But
and it
It's-
just wasn't,
it's probably worth evaluating again, just to go.
No, we can
quote,
evaluate
so to speak.
when we
We're already
budget.
in a quoting process, let's go see what they are. I mean,
In particular, if we're doing it month by month with these generic bags, it would give us an opportunity as we budget in December to perhaps look and say, do we want to,
what are options?
what are options? So maybe have Terry look into that.
Sure.
See what biodegradable bags are. I know other
Yeah.
citizens have come, Nancy Jean came looking for that a while ago.
If this, they shouldn't even been making them, really.
well, then, now that recyclables are way up again, and I don't know when they sort the compactor stuff, did they fish the bags out and recycle them? We don't know, that'd be something we could have, what's his name, come up and he could tell us about the,
Spencer?
yeah,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah, I don't know that they actually,
He presented the,
what parts gets pulled out of the regular compactor.
yeah,
Right.
but back then it was, we were spending a lot of money, and then I remember just milk cartons were bringing $800 a ton when I first came on the board, and then nobody wanted any plastic, and now, unless I'm reading things wrong, it's going up again. It's like becoming lucrative.
What we get.
Recyclables.
Yeah, I haven't seen a whole lot. I know cardboard's going way up. I mean, the price for cardboard. And so we may want to entertain the idea of a compactor again and just doing cardboard. So there are some things that change. I don't know that all the other class of plastics have
No,
started
I'm
to turn the corner, but
Not
they
sure
may.
where I read that, or,
Everything's
read
changing.
so much
Raw materials are
Everything's
tough to
changing.
find.
Yeah,
Raw
yeah.
materials are tough to find the last
Yeah.
year or two, so,
Yeah.
these are things where people can, which are out there.
I'll try to get some, just reporting from Bob for our budget meeting, at least to say, okay, or,
Yeah, and you know what?
Yeah, I'd be curious about
Interested
that.
in what ours, well, we'll see in our budget what our assessment is, but what it was when I first came on the board, I was the assistant transfer station
Yeah, yeah.
supervisor, and it was really, well, that's
I know
what I'm
our
saying, my life it was really interesting, but
I mean, the fees right now, that most of the fees we're paying go to the haulers. I mean, they're the ship, pull it away. I mean,
Right.
the trucking fees and the disposal fees. Our assessment through the Windham Solid Waste has gone way down, and the bulk of that is composting. And the fact that they have one of the bigger, better composting facilities in the state. I think it's the second biggest one in the state. The municipal ones, not private. I mean, they are private, but anyways, I mean, that's generating profit. Composting is a
lucrative.
good business to be in.
Yes.
Okay, well, thanks. So, yeah, so we'll pass that back to Terry.
We've heard that before.
Yeah,
About,
yeah.
you know, with all this, when they were first telling us we had to do all this.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we gotta use two, don't keep,
And I asked.
don't make it too cumbersome.
I said after.
Yes, easy, perfect.
Somebody
Yeah,
said
yeah,
yes, that they'd had to, you could have had to pay much less frequently to have a container emptied, and there have not been bags of stuff in the.
Can you hear
woods that
this?
They were
Are
afraid.
you talking about it?
Yeah, right.
Can you hear?
It's
Yeah,
better, right, because people,
Yeah.
that was part of
I just want to make sure that
Sorry.
we're loud enough that the public can hear us. Not just Paul, the rest of the public. So anyways, no, but good conversation. Okay, on to item number 6. The planning commission at their last meeting voted to recommend to the select board, that's the way the next step goes, some amendments to the town plan.
I did get that.
Those are, I mean, the process is pretty set as far as time periods for warning the meetings and hearing dates and all that kind of stuff.
120 days, 90 days? 90 days. Between 30 and 90.
Between 30 and 90 that we have to
We have to.
hear it. We have to, I mean, it's come to us, now the clock started. We have between 30 and 90, it has to be 30 to 45 days of that prior that we warn it. Our quick thinking was that we would hold our hearing in mid-January. It's kind of a little bit of a lull after the holidays, before town meeting, that kind of stuff, budget's done, whatever, and that we would select a date and warn the meeting at one of our December meetings, probably our first December meeting. We typically don't have a meeting, the second one prior to Christmas, so that would then start the 30-day clock for the warning, and we can warn it for the first or second meeting in January.
The second one in December this year is the 27th, actually, after, because we had that, you know.
Oh, right, okay, yeah, and typically we haven't had a second one,
So you don't have one on the.
a second meeting in December.
Okay.
So I will put that on our December, whatever, 12, I don't know what that first,
13th and 27th.
the 13th. So we'll put that on the agenda for the 13th, that we will select a date and warn the hearing for the town plan amendment process. Amendment.
Yes.
Okay. Any other question on that? I mean, Charlie spelled out pretty well, as always, the detail of where we need to go. And what we, yeah, thank you, Charlie. The rest of the planning commission too. I mean, a lot of stuff that they're working on. The next item is just an update for us and for everybody that we will have a planning process, a budget planning working meeting.
Week from Sunday.
Week from Sunday.
Oh, not this Sunday.
Not
Okay.
this Sunday, yeah, so it's, yeah.
1 to 4.
Oh, I can't-
So it's actually,
We'll get it
I
done.
have to leave
that.
by 4:15.
We'll be
I
done.
mean, it is a
90% done.
public open meeting, but we'll be doing a lot of sharpening our pencils and things like that. So Terry was gonna post up a lot of the documents from before and some other things.
Okay, yeah, I'd like to see,
So
I'd like to see
have
the
a couple of
budgets.
weeks in advance. She thought she was gonna get those up there this week sometime, so we can
Short learning curve.
digest that.
Was she gonna give us a hard copy?
So she'll get us what last
Thought
year.
so too.
I'll ask her.
Yeah,
How much we spent the year.
Because it's helpful to,
Say, wow, we really are spending more money here.
yeah, so it might just,
She's there.
we'll print them up and then just have to swing by here to get them, so,
yeah, okay.
That's retired.
I think she said that last week.
okay.
They're helpful. I mean, even as you're doing the budget.
Yeah, just see
Yeah.
things and scribble on. Yep.
Yes.
And if we don't get it all, we might have to have one more.
We've always had at least 2 and maybe 3 where we just hash out and might need to come in and just approve it.
I think in 3 hours, we can get most of it done.
Get most of it
Yeah.
done. We'll-
And then-
We'll at least start the conversation of know where the questions are, and then we'll have to come back and, if we need to look up something and that kind of thing.
Have another one in January, maybe, just to
Better than
finalize
only
it.
5 of them. In the
For
light.
one after the five, yeah.
That's how we always did it.
Yeah, we
Yeah, that seems to work well, to do it all in one time, and half the time it's just getting up to speed, and then.
Yeah.
so-
But it worked. I didn't mind this last year, doing it this way.
All right, any public comments? Other, Paul, thank you.
I'm all commented out.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Favor of adjourning, say aye. Aye. We're adjourned.